Don't buy a home in Ohio until you watch today's update. Homes across the state are taking significantly longer to sell than they did just a few years ago. In some counties, homes are sitting twice as long as they did in 2021. Let me show you what I mean. Let's look at Franklin County. Right now, homes are sitting 39 days before they go into contract. Now, in 2021, that was only 17 days. So homes are taking a lot longer to sell right now. In fact, if you look at the data going all the way back to 2016, we're tied for the longest days on market for Franklin County. But it's not happening everywhere. It's not happening the same way everywhere. So that's why you have to look at a local level. But here's the thing, headlines aren't going to tell you everything you need to know. You have to go to that local level. So that's what we're doing today on the Ohio Housing Nerd. We're jumping into all this data. We're looking at housing markets across the state. In fact, all you have to do is drop your zip code below, and I will analyze your zip code for you live on today's update. Welcome. My name is Jason Ferrier. I am the Ohio Housing Nerd. I'm a realtor. I'm an investor with Kiger Realty, but I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a normal Ohio dude that likes looking at the housing market and helping you all out. So that's how we're running things today. I already have zip codes that the people have requested over the last week that I can dive into, but let me show you some things that are happening at a county level with days on market. And again, this is pretty telling. I'm using, by the way, to kind of set things up, I'm using the Ohio Housing Nerd data that's free. And you can use this too. You can follow along with me. So to get this data that I'm looking at today, go to my website, jasonferrier.com. That's all you got to do. And then up here at the top, you see data. You click on data. And then you're brought to this map. And this is what we're going to be reviewing today. And you can come in here, folks, and look at zip codes. You can look at the state. You can look at metros. You can even look at the data in a table format if you wanted to. And this is all free to you to use. And I built this. So that's what we're looking at. Let's go to these days on market. I'm going to show you what's happening. So I look at days on market and I start at the state level. Here's where we are. Right now, 41 days on market to sell a home in Ohio. Now you think, well, that's not that bad, right? It's really not. If you go all the way back to 2016, it was 60 days for the state. But we hit a cycle low of 28 days in 2021. So since 2021, July of 2021, it's taking longer to sell a home. And that's statewide, though. Let's look at some counties, find out what's happening. And again, you can look at this data anytime you want. Let's look at some counties. I'm seeing some major movement. Look at Licking County. I happen to live here, and days on market in July of 2021 was 12 days. 12 days. Now, 39 days. Again, taking a lot longer to sell homes in Ohio, no doubt. It's kind of getting back to more of a normal market. Let's look at Delaware County. Look at Delaware County. Homes in Delaware County were selling, going into contract, according to Realtor.com data, in about 12 days in 2021. But now that's changed, 39 days. So as a buyer, if you are buying a home, you need to stop, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you don't want to overpay. And there are markets where buyers have opportunities, where they are gaining leverage. And I'm going to help you pinpoint those markets today. So in Delaware, you could see definitely an increase of days on market. Now, the other thing I'm seeing in the market, beyond days on market, is the seller and buyer ratio. In other words, how many sellers are out there compared to how many buyers are out there. So again, going back to a state level, you can see up here it says 0.76. 0.76. When I say up there, I mean up at the top of the screen, I guess. You see that gauge, 0.76? Basically, what that means is that for every listing out there, for every home on the market, there's less than one buyer to buy that home. That's really what that means. So this used to be, you can look at this, look at going back. I mean, back in 2021, again, when days on market was really low for the state, 1.57. And you're like, hey, nerd, what does that really mean? Like, that's not helping me. But it really does. It does help you because that means that there were more buyers, 1.57 buyers for every listing on the market. Sellers were in complete control of the market in Ohio. But look what's happened. That's changed. It dropped all the way down to 0.76. So it's somewhat close to balance, but it is starting to favor buyers. There's no doubt throughout the state. And there's some counties where it's drastically changed. So if I look at a pending ratio by county, look at this. In Delaware County, of all places, look where it's traveled. It was 1.55 back in 2021. Sellers completely in control. Now, 0.71. Sellers losing control. Homes sitting on the market longer. Fewer buyers out there competing for more homes, essentially. You've got rising inventory. You have demand that, while it's increased a little bit throughout the state, it's nowhere near where it was a few years ago. So supply growth is outpacing demand growth. That's what I'm seeing in the data. And so if I look at an area like, look at this, look at Licking County, 0.66. And you can see my little gauge over here, right? To the left, if it's blue, that's buyers. To the right is sellers. So this needle right now tells me that, hey, sellers are losing their leverage in Licking County. Now, obviously, it comes down to the specific zip code, the specific street, school district, type of home. I have seen homes in the last couple of weeks actually go over asking with up to 15 offers. But it was priced low, right? It wasn't overpriced. It wasn't really even priced at market, to be honest with you. So you see those type of activities happening still, but make no mistake, things are changing. They are changing. I'm watching this in real time. Let me look at another one here. I'm going to go down south here and look at one. So let's look at Montgomery County. Again, drop your zip code and the city you live in below, and I will get to it. You can even drop in your county, and I'll do a full analysis on your market. But right now in Montgomery County, it's 0.78. Again, there is not one buyer for every home listed. Look at back in 2021. Look where it was. It was over two. Over two. That means that there were two buyers for every listed property, basically. That means sellers were in complete control. They were calling the shots. And if you were trying to buy a home, then you know what I'm talking about. They were asking for everything or telling you they wanted everything, and you had to give it to them to get a home. I mean, how many of y'all were in that situation or saw it or heard about it? As a realtor, I can tell you I ran into it constantly. I had tons of clients paying more than asking for homes. I was listing homes where obviously people were paying over asking, no problem. Waiving appraisals, waiving contingencies, no inspections, right? Those days are history, folks. Those days are history. And if the current trend continues, you're going to see more of this. Let's look in Warren County. That's an expensive county. Look at this. 2.2 back in 2021. Now 0.79. Are you noticing a trend? In fact, if I looked at the top 10 counties throughout the state, 9 of the top 10 have significantly longer days on market than 2021. Homes are just sitting longer. Sellers, in some situations, are just delusional. They just want way too much for their home. Eventually, hopefully, they'll come around. But right now, things are sitting. Now, it's not like you're going to get like the best deal you've ever seen in your life. You know, it's not like you're going to get 50% off in most cases. But at the same time, you know, it's about time that buyers have some control, and now they're starting to gain that leverage. Let me look at some comments real quick. And I'll come back to this map and your data here in a minute. Oops, you knew that. Can you check 45324 Fairborn? You looking to buy this fall? Yeah, I'll tag that one. No problem. What's up, Sharon? So do you see the market crashing in the future? My home is in Licking County, and it's been up and down the past few months. Are you watching that Zillow's estimate? Is that what you're looking for? Or is that what you're looking at? That'll drive you nuts, by the way. It's up and down like a yo-yo, right? Do I think it's going to crash? No, I don't. I think that we're going to return to a more normal market over time. That's what I think is going to happen. The thing to watch, though, Sharon, is the inventory. If you are seeing a lot of homes enter the market, a lot of them, and they're not selling, and the active inventory that we can review today, and if you give me your zip code, I can plug it in, or I can look at the county and do a deep dive into Licking County. But if you look at that active inventory, it continues to go up and up and up. You will see prices come down. In order to have a crash, though, you've got to have a ton of forced selling. Forced selling is somebody that needs to sell, doesn't want to sell. Like, hey, if I don't sell, I'm doomed. I got to sell this thing. So I'm going to drop the price until it does sell. That's what we saw back in the great financial crisis, right? 2008 through 2012, approximately. You saw prices come down because inventory exploded. I mean, it went up through the stratosphere all across the country. That drove prices down. So until you see people being forced to sell, right now we don't have forced selling. Until you see that, crash probably isn't going to happen. And a crash is usually defined by like 20% drop. Now, the crazy part is, if you watch my national channel that I did the live stream yesterday, and you can catch that on Housing Nerd, not Ohio Housing Nerd, you would see that there were some markets I'm analyzing throughout the U.S. where we are seeing 20% decline of prices because inventory has gone insane. Hopefully that makes sense. Answer your question. Thanks for checking in, by the way. 43130. Renee, yeah, I'll check that one. Chuck, what up, Chuck? 45066 Springboro, Warren County. Yep, check that one. My wife and I make $200,000 a year. We can't push ourselves to buy a home. Someone bought for $100,000 less just a few years ago at the rates today. People are buying, but I don't know how they're affording it. 44720. Yeah, I'll look at that zip code. So when you say you can't push yourselves to buy, don't push yourself to buy. I mean, unless there's like a need to buy. Like if you wake up today and you're fine and you can live your life, do you need to buy a home? Most realtors won't tell you this. You do not need to buy a home. Renting, there's nothing wrong with renting. There's nothing wrong with renting. The next time you hear a realtor say, you're wasting your money if you rent, ask them if they know who Grant Cardone is. Now, I'm not a fan of everything Grant Cardone does, but he's a massive real estate mogul. And one of his number one rules that he teaches is rent your primary residence, buy investment properties. Enough said, right? So don't pressure yourself into buying, but I'll take a look at your market. And how are they affording it? Just depends on the situation. 43542 Daniel. Yep, I got it. They're piling up now. Bruce, what's up? 45331. We'll do that one. Just a person. So am I. Whoops. 45414. We'll look at that one. Yo. I'll look at that one. And then I just got a super chat, I think. Hey, there we go. Wow. Thanks a lot, dude. That was really nice of you. Just paid off my 3-acre home in rural Georgia. Very content. No mortgage. You don't have anything you want me to analyze? You just can give me some cash? I'll take it. Thank you. Much appreciated. You just paid it off. Good. And you're watching from Georgia. Check out my national housing channel. Content. There's nothing better than being content, right? There's nothing. And I could go and analyze Georgia if you want me to. I've got another data set I could do that with. Just let me know. This is all Ohio right now. But thank you. I really appreciate that. I'll use it to buy some pizza tonight. Pizza is my Friday night treat. So I appreciate it. Thank you. But if you want to get your zip code to the top, give me a super chat. Not that I'm begging for money, but if you give me a super chat, I'll see it and I'll put you at the top. Let's go through these zip codes. I got the first one right here. 45324 Fairborn. 324. Let's look at it. So you can come here to my Ohio data page anytime you want. And take a look at this. So let's go down to that zip code level. 324. Yeah. Let's first look at, here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to look at inventory first. Inventory drives a lot of this. So I'm going to look at active listings, see how the supply is gone, and what's happening with that. Then we're going to look at, we'll look at the pending ratio that I just talked about, that you can see up here all the time. This pending ratio doesn't leave this gauge. And then we'll look at days on market and prices. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it. So active listings, 68. Last July, you had 46. So you've got more homes on the market. What does that mean? More choices as a buyer. That's a great thing if you're buying. What did you tell me you were doing? You're looking to buy this fall. Nothing wrong with buying in the fall. In fact, some of the best time to buy and go look at homes is during like Christmas time, like the week before Christmas, any really time after Thanksgiving. So between Thanksgiving and New Year's, the colder, the more miserable it is, that's when you want to be out looking because other people are too lazy, weak, and just tired to go out and look. And so sellers who need to sell will be like, hey, I'm glad somebody's coming to look at it. So you're doing something right if you're waiting till the fall. That's a good, nothing wrong with that. 68 listings, you had 46 last year. You are gaining supply. Now, here's the thing, though. Look at this. Back in July of 2016, it was 156 listings. So you're not even close to like where you were in 2016 as far as homes on the market. Imagine having 156 homes right now compared to 68, right, in your zip code. Having said that, if you look at the pending ratio, look at this. It's still favoring sellers somewhat. I mean, you're getting close to that 1 mark, which would be an equal number, basically. But right now, you still have. When I said, I'm sorry, the gauge says a little towards the sellers, but in reality, and I have to fix this on the website, it's actually favoring buyers just slightly. It really is because you're under 1. But it's not over 1, which is really good. It's not 2 or 3. So you still have, I would say you're probably going to run into some opportunities if somebody needs to sell, certainly. So now let's look at days on market and see where we are. 38, you actually went down. You went up. 35 days last year, 38 days this year. So homes are sitting longer, 3 days longer. That's what that means. A couple years ago, it was really high, 54. But you didn't have many listings, right? So that will make a difference. Now, if we go back in time, like 2021, it was 22 days. So homes are taking longer to sell. You have more inventory than you did then. And we know that, let's look at the pending ratio now. Yeah, look at that. Holy shnikes. 2.88. That means that sellers were they were commanding the market at that point. I mean, basically there were nearly 3 buyers for every listing out there. Crazy, right? Now look at it, 0.87. It's changed a lot. It has changed a ton. Norsham, right? Unreal. Big changes. That's good for you as a buyer. And you can come to this data set anytime you want as we go through the fall time, and you'll start to see maybe it even goes down lower. The lower this number goes, the more power you have as a buyer, the more negotiating room. Now let's look at that home value and see where we are. So right now, oh, look at this, $217,000. $217,000. Now, that is brand new data that was just updated for July of 2026. So prices are still going up. In fact, if I look at the year over year, look at this. Year over year, you're up 4.3%. 4.3%. But don't get discouraged by that, because the trend is showing that you will have more negotiating power if you go out and look now. Or if you wait till the winter, you should have even more. Not a guarantee. Depends on your situation, the house you're looking at, a variety of factors, but that's the trend. So hopefully that helps. Watch that pending ratio. Watch the active inventory. All right, let me go to the next one. Renee. Oh, Renee. I'm sorry. Renee. Folks, bear with me. Renee, 43130, you're selling. Sometimes I watch these, I'll watch these after I'm done, and I'm like, Jason, what did you do there? 43130, right? Is that right? 43130. Yeah, in Lancaster. Okay. You know what? Let's just go to active inventory. Then I'm going to look at days on market, and then I'll do the pending ratio again. I think that's smoother. All right, 103 listings right now. Last year was 101, so you gained 2 listings. Not that big of a deal. You're kind of like flat almost for the last few years. But if I go back to what? July of, cooperate. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, July of 2021, it was 68. So you've gained a good amount of inventory, now 103. So you gained 40 listings. You're not back to here. This was 241 back in 2016. There are houses everywhere. But now 103. So you're gaining, but you're not back to historical levels yet. However, those homes look like they are sitting longer, because let's look at the days on market and see what it shows. Yeah, look at that. Days on market, 33 days. In 2021, it was 14 days. Double. 33 days on the market now. So homes sitting longer, getting back to a normal level. And look at the pending ratio, 0.70. Look at this gauge. If I go up into the craziness of the COVID market, 1.4 pending ratio was what we were seeing in 2022. There were a lot of buyers for every home on the market. And now, not quite one buyer for every home on the market. So you're selling, right? So you just have to price your home right. You got to realize that it's not, if you look at this days on market, 33 days to go into contract. And if you look at the active inventory, you have more homes than you've had in the last few years. That trend is up. So you got to price the home right. Don't be greedy, and do the basic things to sell your home. Like, make sure that the lighting is good. That's easy to do. Making sure light bulbs work. Be surprised how many people don't do that. Clean it. Make sure it's clean inside and out. Declutter. Get rid of all the clutter you can, inside and out. Clean up your yard. Stuff like that. Before you do anything drastic like put in new flooring or try to change out the kitchen or something, do the basics. And seek out an actual opinion on what your price will be, but not using Zillow, right? So something you can do is you give me a call. I've got some spots opening up. Give me a shout. My contact information's below. You can just go to my website and put in your info and what's going on, and I'll get back to you. And then we can talk about your situation. It's free, right? I come out to your house, take a look, or I just give you an opinion over the phone based on what you tell me. So that's an option to do too. But it's people still need housing. It's not like buyers have vanished. There's just not as many as there were a few years ago. And there are more sellers. That's all there is, really. Again, getting back to more of a normal market. Let's look at prices. How much are home values? Now, this is for your zip code, and this is the typical home value according to Zillow, but they use a middle band, 35 to 65th percentile, that middle band. They're not looking at stuff like really expensive or really cheap. They're kind of looking in that middle range. 278, $278,000. And if I look at year over year, what do I see? Year over year, you're up 2.8%. So it's not like the market is crashing by any means. It's just getting tighter from a competition standpoint for you. You have more competition, and I guess, you know, that pendulum is swinging. Hopefully that helped. Who's next? Chuck, what's up? 45066. Let's do it. 45066. Again, just if you're joining us, drop your zip code below. If you want to move up to the top, throw in a super chat. I'll see it. And that gives me a bonus to pull you ahead of everybody else. Now, if you want to follow along with this data, just go to jasonferrier.com, data, and you can click all around here like I am and look at the exact same thing. That's what I'm using. Let me make sure I got the right zip code, Chuck. 45066. Okay, let's look. Active listings. Yeah, look at this. You've got 64 right now. You had a low of 36 in July 2022. These represent Julys. Obviously, I don't have every month in here. The chart would be way too hard to look at. So this is just tracking July. But what you can see is that you've grown inventory, you know, a good bit since the lows of 2022 or so. You got 64 homes on the market. Now let's look at days on market. Wow, look at this, 47. Last year in July was 35. So homes sitting a lot longer. What's that, 12 days longer? Look back in 2020 in July. It was 80 days. That's crazy. But then it dropped all the way to 18 days, probably because of COVID, right? People were locked down, but then things started shaking loose somewhat, and the days on market dropped, meaning that homes were getting snatched up left and right quickly. That's changed a lot. Now it's 47 days. Let's look at that pending ratio now. So same with a lot of other markets, pending ratio was 2 buyers for every 1 home. A lot more buyers out there than sellers. Again, that has flipped the other direction, and now you're at 0.75. Buyers don't have all the control, but sellers certainly don't have the control they had before. So definitely more of a balanced market, though I would say it's probably edging to buyers a little bit. It doesn't mean, again, you're going to go in and say, well, you're asking 300 for the home. I'm going to offer 210. And it's like move-in ready. That's not going to work, right? Nobody's going to take that. But it does mean that instead of paying 310 or 320 or competing with 5 other buyers, you may be the only one making the offer. So maybe you go in at 290. Maybe you ask for them to pay all your closing costs. Maybe you find something in the inspection that you're like, man, typically like this would kill a deal, like the basement's all messed up or the roof leaks. And now you're like, well, you're going to have to do something for me at closing to fix this. Or you're going to have to repair it before we close. It just means your power has shifted. That's really what it means. Let's look at prices, Chuck. Home value, 450. Last year, 448. So it is up slightly. Year over year, up, look at that, up just 0.3%. It's barely up. Barely up. Like almost flat. And it's actually negative on your home price growth if you're thinking about real growth, not nominal growth, right? Counting inflation. I'm seeing this throughout the state. I mean, let me just zoom this in and you'll see what I mean. Look at the home price growth and how it's trending. And this is year over year, right? Now, this one I do have for every month. But like through, well, let me go back here. Look at 2021, home prices growing at 16%. 16% per year. Think about that. That's crazy. That's unprecedented. And it didn't last forever. It came down. The growth kept slowing and slowing and slowing and slowing and slowing all the way down to 0.3. So prices really aren't growing that much at all anymore where you are. They haven't crashed. They haven't gone negative yet on a nominal basis, but make no mistake, prices are not exploding anymore where you are. So I hope that helped. And I appreciate you always joining us. I think you're a frequent Ohio housing nerd participant. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Oh, yeah. You told me the story about you and your wife. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, there has to be a reason to buy a home. You can't just, like, you know, you don't have to buy a home. There's no requirement that says you do. 44720. Let's look at that one. North Canton. All right. I'm going to go here so I can track this a little better. Active listings, 50. Last year, 56. You actually lost inventory. And look, and this is a great example of what's happening through the markets because not all markets are the same. So you've lost inventory. That's one indicator that I'm like, as a buyer, that's not fun. And so you may be seeing a lot. You may be seeing different things than others who are watching today are seeing. You probably are. So you have lost inventory. Days on market is actually up, but it's up from 30 to 32 days. So it's not up that much. Your low was 19 days. So homes, the typical house is sitting longer than it was back in 2021, but you've lost inventory. Now look at this on your ratio. This is pretty interesting. Look at the pending ratio now. You were at two for the pending ratio, 2 buyers for basically every home on the market back in July of 2020. And look where you are now, 1.32. Notice that the other zip codes we looked at today, so far, they're all under 1, meaning buyers have more, are gaining that leverage. Here, sellers still probably in control. There are more buyers than there are homes on the market. That's what that means. And so this is a pretty strong pending ratio for the current market. I'm not seeing a ton over 1. Really, I'm not. Even by zip code. So that's an indication that, hey, your market's still kind of, I guess, hot, you could say. Like there's still a lot of homes that are, there's still a lot of sellers that are probably calling the shots. Although it's not as much as it was in 2020, they're still probably in control. Look at the prices, $301,868. That's the latest price according to Zillow Values. And then if I go to home value year over year, 3.2% up. Prices aren't crashing. They're still going up. And remember the last zip code we looked at? Prices were up in Warren County. Prices were up just 0.3%. You're up 3.2%. So probably not quite inflation, right? I mean, inflation's higher than that, but it's definitely higher than 0.3%. So price is still going there. I mean, look at back, again, I can compress this and you can really see what's going on with prices. Look at this back in July of 2021, prices were growing at 16%. And the growth, like other markets in Ohio, slowed, but it's not down to, underneath 1 yet. Prices are still growing. So does that mean you should run out and buy right now before prices continue to go up? No. It just means that you have to have the right expectation. If you're like, well, I'm going to run out and get the deal of my dreams, don't be surprised if you don't. Don't be surprised if there's competition when you bid or make an offer and sellers aren't as flexible. That's all. And again, you have to do really local analysis. You're going to have to do some of these exercises just looking at some comps in your area you want to buy in, like the actual street or subdivision. This is just a directional compass that I'm doing today. But again, if anybody has any questions about buying and you want to get more detailed, just contact me right in the description at the very top of the description in this video, not on Facebook. Facebook viewers have to go to YouTube to see it because Facebook won't allow me to put links in there. But just go there and just go to my website right here and contact me up here, and you just fill this out, and I'll give you a ring, and we'll talk, or I'll set a time to talk to you. All right, so that's that. Let's do the next one. I hope that helped. What's up, Daniel? Fulton County, 43542. Let's go to Fulton, see what's happening. Montclair, Lucas County. No, you said Fulton County, didn't you? 43542. 43542. What did I do? 43542. This says it's Fulton County. Is that not right? Now I'm confused. You're on the border there. So this zip code is coming up as Montclair. Right here. Active listings. Let's look at that. 20. Last year, 15. So you don't have a whole lot of data in your zip code. That may be a little tough for me to analyze, but I'll give it my best shot. So 15 active listings last. Yeah, let me go to the county level. I think that would be easier. And give us a little bit more to look at. You said Fulton County, right? So you're in Fulton County. Let me go there. So Fulton County, 54 active listings right now. 55 last year. You've lost one. You actually lost one listing. Days on market. 41 though. Last year, 31. So homes are sitting 10 days longer than last year in the county. It's possible that you lost a listing because sellers are like, I'm not going to sell right now. I'm not getting the demand that I thought I would get. Maybe they just don't need to sell, or maybe they're like, it would cost too much to move, so I'm not going to. Seeing a lot of that. People have good interest rates. A lot of people bought, 10 years ago. Why would you sell? Has to be a real big reason. So that's why maybe homes are sitting that are on the market longer than last year, but not getting as much inventory. All right, now let's look at let's look at the pending ratio here. The pending ratio, 0.94. The peak was like 2021. It was 1.49. So that was a seller's market, hands down, right? But now you're at 0.94, still probably leaning to a seller's market, but it's changing. And you can see that going from 1.49 to 0.94. So not quite one buyer for every listed home out there is really what that means. Point is, it's getting better as a buyer. You're getting more competition as a seller, generally speaking, in Fulton County. Let's look at value. What's going on with value? $233,977, basically $234,000. It's probably an all-time high. Let me look. Yeah, it's an all-time high for Fulton County. Prices up 2.1%. Folks, that's like normal. In a normal housing market, 2% growth is average everyday USA. No big deal. But this wasn't normal. Look at this. Back in June of 2021, it was 19% growth. And so literally, like, this period of time right here to right here, not that you can see that, let me zoom in. Yeah, that's better. So like, where did it start to take off? Like right around here is when it took off. In May of 2020, all the way to, you know, really February of 2023, values were exploding. And they were really exploding in 2021. I mean, that's when all the damage was done. You had months where month after month, the year-over-year change was parabolic and high. And that's why prices did this. Look at the prices. You can really see them, right? In July 2020, a home there was $156,000. By July of 2023, it was $202,000. So in just 3 years, went up $50,000. Now, if your house is $1 million, 50 grand, not that big of a deal. But if your home's 150 grand, a $50,000 increase in just a few years, that's a lot. So that's what happened there. I hope that helped. Again, watch this pending ratio over here. Watch that. Watch active listings. You can come in here anytime you want and look at it directionally on what's going on. I did notice, though, when I looked at your zip code, I will say this. When I looked at your zip code, I did notice this. Now, you don't have a lot of data, so it's hard to analyze, but I did notice that the pending ratio was 0.45, meaning that's really low. Like we saw markets, we saw a market up in Canton just a couple minutes ago where it was over 1. We saw your county nearly 1, meaning sellers still had directionally some control. But now, if you go to your zip code level, it looks like buyers have the control. There's not even a half of one buyer, half of one person for every listing. And this can go a lot lower. Like there are some places in the US where it's, 0.10, 0.05, like no buyers hardly. So watch that too. And again, you come here anytime you want and take a look at it. All right. Thanks for that one. Thanks for Fulton County. Let's do Bruce Bowers, 45331. If you can, tell me what you're up to, or if you're just curious. If you're buying, if you're selling, you're trying to buy an investment property, what are you trying to do? This is in Greenville. Let's do active listings. How many we got? 39. Okay, we got some data there. So last year you had 38. Year before that you had 25. Was that a low? Yeah, 25 back in 2024. Now you got 39. That's a 56% increase from 2024. So you are gaining homes. That's good. I don't know if you're buying or selling. You didn't tell me, but that's a good piece of info. At least you know that you're adding inventory. Now, days on market, 35 days. Last year, 34 days. Notice this trend. I mean, homes are sitting about the same amount of time as they did last year for you. And look at this, 84 days back in 2020 it took to sell a home. That was when homes took a long time to sell. Maybe because of the pandemic, I don't know. But then it dropped, and you're kind of still in that channel. It's not really, homes aren't really sitting any longer than they were a few years ago. Let's look at the pending ratio. So the height was here in July of 2021, 154. 1.54, sorry. 1.54, meaning there was a 1.5 buyers for every home listed. So now, as you can see, 0.87. Again, it's shifting. With interest rates the way they are, I checked today, they were like 6.69, I think. I should have done this at the beginning of the stream, but I didn't. Where are interest rates right now? Go to mortgage. Yeah, there we go. I called it. 6.69 today for the 30-year fixed. Right? According to Mortgage News Daily. So with interest rates like that, home prices being where they are, inflation being where it is, demand in the housing market is not where it usually lies. I mean, every realtor I know is saying the same thing, which is, hey, it's just slower. For some, it's a lot slower. But it was bound to change at some point with higher prices and higher interest rates. I mean, payments and then property taxes. Shoot, can't forget that. You got property taxes and insurance higher for longer. It all adds up to a big bowl of soup that equals less demand. That's one of the big reasons. So let's look at prices real quick for you. 205 is your typical home value. All right. What about year over year? Still up. Look at that. Woo-wee. Your prices are still growing at a good clip. 7% growth year over year. That's a lot compared to what we usually see through the market when you look at other areas of the state. And by the way, if you look at this chart on prices, on price growth, you can kind of see, look how prices fell big time for you in your zip code in 2017. I don't know what happened in 2017, but man, your prices fell a lot. And then you can see what happened during the great financial crisis, right? Prices fell. Why? More inventory. Someone asked earlier if we were going to crash. No, not right now. I don't see a crash on the horizon. But if we see an explosion of inventory like this, like if you saw, I mean, back in 2016, you had 167 homes on the market. If we saw that again, all of a sudden, like, boom, you've got 150 homes on the market or 200 homes on the market. Unless for some reason demand catches up to that, then you could see meaningful decline in home prices, maybe a crash. But right now, that's not happening. We're way away from that, like far, far away from that. All right. Next. Oh, got another super chat. That was really nice of you. That's the second one. You don't have to do that. People bitching and complaining on YouTube need to stop. Lots of ways to success in 2026. I agree. Lots of ways to success. Like you have to move in spite of the market. Agree 100%. Z Core Pal. Z Core Alpha. Z Corp Alpha. There you go. Took me a second. But you're right. There's tons of ways to find a property if you really want a property as an investment or a primary residence. Sometimes you have to do things others are unwilling to do, like buy in the coldest days of the year. Go out and look when it's torrential rain out. That's a great time to look for a home because you're going to see what's going on in that basement. Has your basement ever leaked? No. Okay. Then you go there in the middle of a driving rainstorm like we've had in the last week or so. And then you can really see what's happening, right? So there's opportunities everywhere. You're right. You just have to look. I agree. Thank you for mentioning that. And again, thanks for the contribution. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, you don't have to do that. But thank you. All right. Another one. Goodness. Z Core Alpha. Z Corp Alpha. I don't even know who you are, man. Thank you. 30334. Okay. Oh, you're in Georgia. That's right. Right? Well, because you gave me 3 super chats. No problem doing this for you. Let's do this. So I'm going to use Resi Club Analytics. They cover the entire nation. My data right now, my interface only does Ohio. At some point, it will be like this. But right now, it is just Ohio. So let me do your zip code, 30334. Georgia. Come on. Come on. 30334. I don't know why it's not playing ball with me here. Is that what you told me? 30334, right? Okay. Hmm. 334. That maybe it's too small. Let me look. Could be too small. That's Fulton County. I'm going to do Fulton County. For some reason, that zip ain't coming up. So I'll do Fulton County, Georgia for you because you gave me a super chat. That was really nice of you. You gave me 3. All right. Fulton County, Georgia. What's happening? Now, I don't have pending ratio for Fulton County, Georgia. Just on my data set, I do. Let's look at active inventory. So you've got right now 5,921 homes on the market. Wow. I mean, look where you traveled from. 3,000 homes on the market at one point in Fulton County, Georgia, 3,000 homes. So you've gained 3,000 homes. That's a lot. That's a lot. What about days on market? 60 days. Back in 2022, it was 31 days. So you're getting back to normal, but homes sitting about twice as long. Takes 60 days to go into contract. See, folks, if you're watching this and you're an Ohioan, and this little divergence into little detour, I guess, into Georgia, markets are completely different in other states. Completely different. Let's look at prices now. What's up with prices? Down 2.4%. Probably looks funky on the screen, but that's what it is, 2.4%. So you're losing value. You're losing value. And that's different than we're seeing here in Ohio, right? Not really seeing a lot of value loss. And look, your peak was like here in, like right around here, June or so of 2024, about 500 grand, $496,000 in Fulton County. If you go all the way down to where we are now, you're at 475 grand. You've lost about $25,000 of value. But you said your house is paid off, you're content, you're good to go. That's one of the best things about it. That's the way to live, man. And by the way, again, thank you so much for the super chat. That was really nice of you. So, and joining us on the Ohio Housing Nerd. All right, let's do the next one. What do I got? Let me just scan these real quick. Able to keep all that extra money. Yeah, good for you. And paying off the house, great job. Where am I getting my pizza from? There's a new pizza spot over here that replaced the Fleecy's, and it's called I can't remember the name of it. Pizza. I can't think of the name of it for some reason. I'm drawing a blank. It's right down the street from me. Great pizza, though. Maybe the best in Licking County. I like Don and Sue's pizza, too, over in Newark. All right, what's next? 44656. I don't think I did this one, did I? Okay, let me go ahead and do that one. And then let me look at another one here. All right, let's do this one. 44656. Mineral City. Ooh, boy, yeah, we're going to have to do I'm going to have to do a county level look for you because there's just no data, hardly. This is in Tuscarawas County. 116 listings right now in the county. Last year, 97. Now, I'll show you what's really interesting about your county in a minute, but you can see the growth of inventory, right? Like, so this thing is not cooperating. You had 92 back in 2024. Now you've got 116. So you are growing your inventory. You are. Let's look at days on market. Wow. Your days on market really hasn't improved. I mean, back in 2016, it took 63 days to sell a home. Now, 32 days. And that really hasn't changed. And here is what I'm seeing in a lot of rural Ohio counties. I'm seeing this. Look at your pending ratio. It has come down. So the power is shifting to buyers somewhat, or buyers are gaining power, gaining leverage, however you want to call it. In 2020, it was 1.54. In 2026, it's 1.09. So you're still slighted to sellers. You still are. And I'm seeing this in the rural counties. It seems like sellers still have more power, probably because there's less inventory. Your days on market isn't super low right now. So it tells me, honestly, that your market's still probably tight. You probably are tight. Let's look at the home value. Yeah, look at this value straight up, $219,000. And this is for Tuscarawas County, again, because your zip code didn't have a lot of data. And let's look at the year over year. Where are we at? Year over year, look at that, 6.3%. And so to a housing nerd like me, that's extraordinary to see that you still are growing your home prices 6.3%. There hasn't really been there's been a slowdown versus what you were seeing in 2021 from home price growth, but then it just kind of has stayed steady in the 7s and 6s and 5s. It's not down to like 0.3 or 1% or 2% or 3%. That's pretty crazy. So yeah, I mean, I would say that if you're out there buying, you probably may still have a pretty tough time. Not that you can't find an opportunity, you're just going to have to look a lot harder and set your expectations correctly. In a market like yours, will waiting for the market to change help? I don't know. I mean, you have to ask yourself, where will we find homes for sale in your county? I mean, let's be honest, like there's only 116 in the entire county for sale. So it's like, where are you going to find inventory? Either somebody has to decide they have to sell and they want to sell and they do, like, hey, I'm leaving the state, or I had a second home, maybe that happens. Maybe somebody passes away and they leave a home to their kids and their kids sell it. That's happening more and more, obviously. That could be a way to get inventory, but that's kind of morbid, right? You're not going to sit around and wait for people to die to get a home. So then it's like, what other ways can you have it? New building. Are they building new homes where you are? Well, check this out. I've got that data too. I've got in, let's see, single family permits. So I can tell you right now, for every 1,000 residents, there's less than one single family house being permitted to be built. Less than one for every 1,000 residents. That's not very good. That's low. In other words, they're not building a lot of homes. What about multifamily? Same thing, even worse. No multifamily building. So the point is, you have to have homes for sale in order to cause price to come down. Right now, it doesn't look like there's a lot out there. I don't know if there will be anytime soon. Let's face it, home builders aren't targeting Tuscarawas County to build homes. I hate to say it, but they're not, right? Looks like in June of 2023, there were 3 permits per 1,000 people. But there are some areas of the US where it's like 29 per 1,000 people. So not a lot of home building. That's gonna keep this pending ratio probably high and in a seller's favor. So hopefully that helps. All right. Hopefully you got some knowledge there. Oh, here's a good one. Fairfield Beach. Yeah, Buckeye Lake. I'll definitely take that. Look at this one. 43076. I think you said something else here too. What's up, Buckeye Service? Now let's look at this. Should I sell or rent? That'll be a hard decision for me to make for you. I shouldn't do that. But we'll look at the data. The data in Millersport, should I try it out to them? The data in Millersport, should I try it out to them? Rent it out to them? I don't know. Is that what you mean? If so, how should I go about that? Well, you have a lot of questions. I mean, honestly, I'm happy to help probably in a more detailed way, one-on-one. So just hit me up on my website. We can schedule a time to talk up here at the top, right? Just hit contact, shoot your information in there, what's happening, remind me of the conversation we had, and then we can set up a time to talk about your specific, what's really going on. But let me look at your market. 43076. Thornville. Yeah, this will be interesting. So you've got 43 active listings. Last year, you had 48. Year before that, you had 55. So you're losing inventory, believe it or not. You are losing inventory, meaning there's fewer homes on the market for people to choose from, right? But you got to keep looking more at the data. 53 days. Last year was 53 days. Year before that, 50 days. But look down here. In July of 2020, it was 20 days. So the days on market has exploded in Fairfield Beach, Buckeye Lake, basically, right? Or a portion of Buckeye Lake. So there's no doubt it's homes are sitting longer, even though you're losing inventory. So it could be one of two things. Could be that people are buying the homes, or it could be that sellers are delisting their homes. They're taking them off the market because they're like, well, I'm not getting the price I want. I'm just going to take my toys and go home. That's their choice, right? People delist all the time. So let's now look at the pending ratio, though, because I'm looking at that on the screen here at 0.35, and that's low. Look back in 2020, your pending ratio was 1.3. Sellers in control, and that has completely changed. Look at this, 0.35. Buyers. It looks like by this ratio, buyers definitely have leverage. Again, it doesn't mean that there's a million houses on the market. It just means that there's not near enough demand for the houses on the market. That's really what that means. It doesn't mean if you sell, you're going to be unsuccessful, right? And it doesn't mean that if you, as a buyer, you're going to get the deal of your dreams. It just means that you probably have some more leverage, ask for some more things. In fact, here's interesting. This kind of puts it into perspective for us versus my rhetoric. Look at 0.38 back in 2016. Okay. So maybe that was normal for Fairfield Beach. Maybe it is. Now 0.35, so about the same, right? In fact, let me go back to active inventory. Do I have that going to 2016? I mean, you really didn't have, you had fewer listings in 2016 too. The market was really slow then. I mean, there were no buyers with 39 listings, and your ratio back then was 38.38. I mean, you got to, at some point, this COVID fever will wear off, right, for buyers. And it's starting to because of a lot of it because of rates. Everybody thought rates would go down. They haven't. They've gone up. They've gone up. I don't think that's changing, by the way. I think you're going to see higher for longer on that. I mean, eventually it'll change, obviously, but I'm just trying to find. But Buckeye, I appreciate you joining and asking about Fairfield Beach. So yeah, hit me up if I can help you. Yeah, listen, man. Z-Core Alpha, that was a huge contribution today to the Ohio housing nerd. I appreciate it. Thank you. And have a good day. Have a great weekend, man. Watching videos from Marion, Ohio. Do you think the new 71 connector will impact any property evaluations in the future? Sure. Why wouldn't it, right? Like for those that are going to be built right next to it. I'm sorry. For the homes that are right next to it, depending on where it goes and how it works, right? Obviously, if you live out in the country now and there's nothing around you and all of a sudden there's a highway near you, that's going to change things. That's going to change things. And by the way, in Ohio, you have to disclose things that are material. So if you knew that in your front yard is going to be tore up in the next 6 months, if somebody, the city or the state or whoever it is, ODOT, gave you a notice, however that works, I don't know. And they say, hey, we're going to tear up your yard in the next few weeks or few months, to build this thing. And then you go to sell your home and you don't tell the buyer, that ain't good. So you got to disclose that. So, getting ahead of it now may be the answer, depending on where you are, right? No guarantees. But I used to live in Marion on Pearl Street, actually. Went to Pearl Street Elementary that's no longer there. Fun fact from the housing nerd. But thanks for watching from Marion. Lazar Tarzan, right? Is that how I say it? 44718. Let's look at your zip code. $44718. Now, you again drop your zip code below. I'll see if I can get to it today. Super chats. I'll get to those quicker. And put you on top. And you can also follow along with me and the other nerds with the data right here on jasonferrier.com. You just go to data right here. Let's go up to Lazar's area, which is Canton, 44718. Let me just double check it. 44718, yeah. 28 day. Oh, I'm sorry. That's active listing. So you got 28 homes on the market. Not that many. If you go back into 2016, you had 80 homes on the market. 80 homes. You had 18 in 2022, so you have gained a few homes, but not a ton. It's not like inventory has exploded. It's barely grown. It's barely grown. Let's look at days on market. How's that looking? 19 days. Holy shnikes. That's the cycle low. Homes are moving quicker than they ever have right now. Homes are not sitting very long before they go into contract. 19 days. So it looks like houses are selling quicker. Now look at the pending ratio. Here's what's interesting. Pending ratio was 1.17 in 2022. And now 0.79, which means that sellers haven't lost all the power, but buyers are starting to creep in with some leverage. Based on the fact that your days on market is down like it is and your inventory really hasn't grown, I would expect this thing to be higher than 1, but it's not. It's not. So maybe it's somewhat of a balanced market. Something I haven't been looking at in the other zips is price cuts. But here are price cuts. 13.7% of all listings have had a price cut. Not that many. So sellers aren't really cutting their price this July. This is July's data. So this summer, I guess you could say. 13% is kind of normal. You go historically back, you had some big price cuts last year and the year before. But historically, you've always had some price cuts. So let's look at home values. $390,000. That looks like an all-time record high. Yeah, look at this. Prices are still growing 3% year over year. So that growth, again, is slowing overall. In other words, the growth every year is getting tighter and tighter. No longer are you growing at 15, 16, 17, 14, 12%. Thank goodness. But you are still growing 3.4% up. And again, just like before, you can really see what occurred during the great financial crisis. This is what prices did during basically the worst housing crash we've seen nationally. This is what prices did in your zip code. There were months where prices were falling 4% year over year, 5%, 6% year over year. You can just take a step back and look at that and see there are periods of time where prices have come down. But those days aren't here again unless we have a lot of forced selling and tons of inventory. Let me go back to active listings again. So yeah, you had 80 active listings back in July of 2016. Unfortunately, I can't go back earlier than that with the inventory from a statewide basis. going through all these counties and zips because Realtor.com hides that information from me. But you had a lot more listings back then. I wonder what the pending ratio was back then, by the way. Let me just look. Yeah. Wow. 0.03 pending ratio when you had 80 homes on the market. That means there was zero demand. Basically none. None at all. I mean, buyers were checked out. What about days on market? What was that doing back then? Yeah, 53 days. Wow. Compared to now, 19 days. So homes are sitting a lot longer. Oh, price cuts. 16%. Not a lot of price cuts. That's surprising. Anyway. I could go into this data for miles, obviously. All right. Hopefully that helps you understand what's happening. Evil Overlord, what up? 44240, thumbs up. Thanks. I always forget to mention that. But yeah, hit the thumbs up if you're on the live stream or you got any value at all. Even if you're watching afterwards, I appreciate it. And share the video with someone else. The more Ohioans that get involved, the better. 44240. Let's look at that. 44240. And then you had a question, I think, too. Active listings, and that's in Kent, 35. Last year, 32. You've gained 3 listings. Congratulations. That's all. Look at this, 109 active listings, 109 back in 2016. A lot more inventory than you have now. Think about that. That's like, it can't be overstated enough how much that changes a market when you at one point had 100 and some listings and now 35. And now let's look at the days on market. 31 days. Last year, 36. It looks like still a tight market. It does. And look at the pending ratio, 1.20, right? Right up here. 1.20. So your peak was 2.35 back in 2020, meaning that pending ratio, there were over 2 buyers for every home listed. You put a house on the market, there's at least 2 buyers out there buying at that time, putting homes in contract, at least 2, a little over 2, for every home that was listed. That's when demand was crazy and sellers were holding all the cards. Now, that has dropped, but you're still over 1. Sellers probably still pretty much calling the shots. 1.20 right now is where your pending ratio is. So watch that pending ratio. Now, you had a question, I think, right? If I decide to buy a foreclosure, is there anything? Oh, hang on. Before I get to that, I don't want to skip my process. Let me go to the home values. Where you are, $257,000. No surprise, year over year, you're up 4%, according to Zillow Home Values. So still up a little bit. Actually, more than a little bit, right around probably the inflation number. And I wouldn't expect that to change. I wouldn't expect you to see a big drop of price growth until you see a lot more homes on the market. So yeah, let's get back to your question. You said, if I decide to purchase a foreclosure, is there anything I need to watch out for? Any further advice? There's a lot to watch out for with a foreclosure. There's a lot. I would spend a ton of time. I mean, YouTube's a great source. Spend a ton of time on YouTube just searching for foreclosure process advice, basically, and you'll find all kinds of material. So I'd watch a ton of videos on that. I would also maybe join and if you already are, I don't know if you are, there's a group online called at School, SKOOL, and the group is one rental at a time. So anybody watching who wants to be an investor or wants to buy a foreclosure, go here. I'll give it to you right now. So this website is like they call it a school community, SKOOL. And basically it's a group of real estate investors for the most part, and it's $20 a month. And I'm part of it. I don't participate a ton like I should probably, but anyway, they have a great network of people inside this community that could help you. And it's only $20 a month. And there are people probably near you, very near you, that belong to this community that could even get together with you face to face and help you. There's too much to go over with foreclosures for me to give you any just shotgun advice, except to tell you that you got to get educated on it. Know it up and down. You're not going to know everything about it before you try your first one, but get with those that have done it already close to you and interact with them on a regular basis and ask them questions. And the school community from one rental at a time is a great way to do that. I don't make any money on this. This is not my site. It's the guy that owns it and runs it. I know him, and he's maybe one of the best real estate investors out there. And he's for the small real estate investor, not the big one. He's not a Grant Cardone. So I encourage you to check this out. That's my advice on that. But I don't have a silver bullet for you on foreclosures, except they can be great opportunities as a primary resident or an investor. Either one. So hopefully that helps you. Great question. Need to make more than 200,000 in 2027. Yeah, I mean, isn't it crazy, right? Like growing up, I'm Gen X, right? You're growing up and you're like, man, if I made 100 grand, man, I'd be on easy street. I'd be driving the car I want, have the house I want, go on vacation. Now you're like 100 grand. It doesn't even get you to first base, it feels like. So you're right. You need at least 200. I remember before you hear people making 200,000 and you think, man, must be a doctor or a lawyer. Like, that's crazy. People made 300,000. You think, who makes that much money? And now you'd be shocked, right? At the corporate pay. It's like you have to make more now. Yeah, 200,000 is middle class. It is. It's nuts, right? Isn't the new poverty line like 150,000? I think Mike Green said that. 44460 Salem, Ohio, Greene County, please. All right. 44460. Let's look at it. How long have I been going? Hour and 17 minutes. That's child's play. 44460. Whoops. What's going on here? Let's look at it. Salem. And you got some listings. Active listings, 53. Last year, 44. So you have more inventory. That's a good thing. If you're buying. Even if you're selling and you're going to move in the same area, the same zip code, like sell in one area of town and move to the other, more inventory is probably good for you because at least when you go to buy your next house, there's something to buy. Let's look at days on market. 49. Last year, 28. That's a big difference. So homes are definitely sitting longer. There's no doubt about it. They are sitting longer. And it's playing out on the ground because look at this. You've got when you look at the pending sales ratio, down to 0.68. You peaked at 1.59. Times have changed in Greene County, in Salem, 44460. 2021, you had sellers firmly in control. Now buyers are starting to take control. There's no doubt. I got to fix this little meter here, by the way. It's probably not gives us the best representation. So I'll probably have to fix that. But 0.68 is low, right? I mean, if you've been paying attention today, you'd see some over 1 still. A couple areas, right? Over 1 means sellers are in control. Now, this probably buyers are definitely more in control. You got higher days on market. You got more inventory. It doesn't mean prices are crashing or even falling yet. Yeah, you're still at $196,000, right? For your typical home value. And year over year, it's up 5%. So it doesn't mean that there aren't discounts out there. It just means that homes that are selling, the typical home, is selling for 5% more than last year. That's really what that means. Generally speaking, directionally speaking, right? Oh, 4.3%. It's still up. July of 2026. 4.3%. I mean, look back in, again, May of 2021 or so, you had 14% growth, 13% growth. So now at least it's coming back down to earth, right? And then again, during the great financial crisis, you had price decline because we had a lot of inventory. Now we don't have that. So watch the inventory, watch the pending ratio, but it looks like there could be deals out there. At least, look at a lot of homes. don't be afraid to make an offer that makes sense for you and not the actual seller. Like if the seller's asking for 300,000 and you're thinking, well, I got to get close to 300,000 to get the home. Maybe, but if 300,000 is not what you want to pay or you can pay, make the offer where you can make it. If that's 250, make it at 250. If that's 230, make it at 230. There's no law against making a disrespectful offer or a lowball offer. There's no law against that. I mean, the way realtors should be handling these situations is that it's not show friends, it's show business, right? So it's nothing personal. So yeah, price is still kind of sticky where you are. Maybe that'll change. But we need transactions, right? You got to have people buying in order for those prices to come down. That's the weird thing. With nobody buying, the prices have stayed high. You got to have some price discovery, they call it. All right. What's next? I'm just looking down at some of the comments here. See if there's anything that stands out. Trying to buy and currently went past my request. Well, it's hard for me to find them all, Jeff. I need like an assistant. I didn't see your request. I did the Salem one. Okay, let me do this one. Here we go. Nate Walensky, what's up? 265,000 good for 44094. I don't know, but let's look at the zip code, see what's going on there. Willoughby in Lake County. 69 homes on the market right now. Last year, 59. So you've gained 10 homes. It's a good thing. 39 active listings back in 2023. So a lot more homes. I mean, comparatively, right? But go back into 2016. Look at this. You had 176. That's a lot of homes. That was when you had a lot of homes. Let me look at days on market for you. How long are homes sitting in Lake County? 45 days. Last year, 35 days. That's 10 days more, right? Even I can add that. Wow. So more inventory, homes sitting longer. Go back to 2016, though. Homes were sitting 61 days, 2 months, basically, right? So you had a lot more listings. You had a lot more, homes were sitting longer back in 2016, but you're starting to trend at least in that direction. Let's look at the pending ratio. So it hit a high of 1.82, back in 2022, July. Now, 0.68. So sellers have lost a lot of control there. Buyers gaining leverage, no doubt about it. Let's look at the home values. $322,000 right now. $322,000 for Lake County. Willoughby, 44094. Look at the price growth, still 3.5%. I would expect in a market like yours to start to see lower growth, right? Will it go negative? I don't know. May not go negative for a while. But even if it did, the price growth you've had recently over the last 5 years would far outweigh any small price difference or price decrease. But is 265,000 a good deal? I don't know. Sorry, I have no idea. It depends on what your situation, the house, the condition of it, the area, and if you're happy with it. I mean, I don't know if you just bought or not, but if you're happy with the house, you're never going to time the market all the way down. But it's definitely under the typical home value. Your typical home value is a lot higher, right? Typical home value is $322 or $322,000. So it's lower than the typical value in your zip code, but whether or not it's good, I don't know. The fact is, you're never going to time the market perfectly. So you're like, I got the best deal I could ever get. There's always going to be a better deal out there. Always. Don't worry about that. Your job is to do it for yourself, right? So did it make sense where you bought, or is 265 make sense for you for that house and that neighborhood at this time right now in your life? If it does, Great. If it doesn't, well, keep looking. All right, next. J Heating and Cooling. Can I look at 44805 Ashland? Thanks. You're welcome. 44805. Ashland County. Ashland, sorry. Ashland. And that's what is that? Oh, it's Ashland County too. Duh. All right. Active listings 75. Last year 69. The year before that in 2024 50. 46 in 2023. So that was your low. 46 listings. You've definitely grown past then. But like all other areas we're looking at today, if you don't see a trend, you haven't been paying attention. Look at this, 192 listings back in 2016. I mean, the supply, not the demand, but the supply destruction of the Ohio housing market is epic. And they're not replacing the inventory quick enough with like new homes, right, being added. So like, let me look at single family permits where you are. Yeah, I mean, this is a great chart to look at. Holy cow, what a great example. So like right now, you've got 1.26 single family permits for every 1,000 residents. Compared to what, right? Housing nerd compared to what? Well, good question. Go back into 2000 and I don't know. Well, heck, let's go to 1994. Look at this. In your zip code, or in Ashland County, rather, in Ashland County, there were 4.28 homes built or permitted for every 1,000 residents, which is still not that high, but it's a lot better than you are now. And look at where it's gone. Like, we're not building any homes in Ohio. We shut off that faucet in 2004, 2005. That's completely counterintuitive to most headlines you see, with most people in the industry will tell you. And what most people think, they drive around Ohio and they're like, there's new homes everywhere. But you're like up close. When you look at the data, it's clear we're not building any homes anymore. Now, there are areas where we are building homes in Ohio. I'm not saying it's not complete across the state, but overall, most of these markets are just not great with new home construction. What about multifamily? Nothing, basically zero multifamily permits. Anyway, that has to do with supply, because if I go back and look at active listings, you had 192 in 2016. Now you have 75 active listings in the entire county, in the entire Ashland County. And that just tells me that they're not building any new homes. They're just not, right? I mean, how are you going to get inventory back to 192 listings? How? Either somebody passing away, deciding to sell, new homes, which they're not building. Santa Claus is going to bring you home. Like, there's just, I hate to be morbid about it, but there's just not a lot of hope to get a ton of supply. That's why prices are sticky. So you look back at home values, look at this, $249,000. It looks like that's an all-time record. And if I look at the growth, yeah, you're still up 5.4% year over year. So prices are not coming down. And the ratio meter tells me that sellers are still holding the cards. Different than these couple other zip codes we've looked at. Now, I didn't look at your zip code. I looked at the county because of that, because of the permitting. So let me just look real quick. Yeah, you've got, on your zip code, though, you do have a little bit more homes on the market. But look at this, 1.29, even higher than the county in your zip code as far as a ratio, meaning sellers even have more power than they did at the county level, or that they do in the county level. 237,000 is your typical value in your zip code. And year over year, prices growing at 6%. They're just not coming down. They're sticky, right? Sellers in control. I mean, this, again, let me just see if there's any data for your zip code. I don't think I have it for the zip codes. Yeah, I don't. I don't have permits for the zip code, only county level. I get that from the Census Bureau, by the way. That's how I get the permit data. But hopefully that helps you understand kind of what's happening. Rebecca, what's up? 45241 and 45069. 45241, huh? Sharonville. We only got 21 active listings, so I'm going to go out to a county level first, and then I'll look at that other one. So you're in Hamilton County, right? So I'm going to look at the county level. Look at the active listings here. Obviously, a much larger county, much more, many more homes out there in the whole county level. 1.6 thousand are on the market now. And look at this. You have to go all the way back in Hamilton County, all the way back to you have more than July of 2020. If I go back to July of 2019, you're still not at that level yet. But if I go to 2016, look at that. 3,000 listings in 2016. Yikes. That's a lot of homes on the market. Now let's look at single family permits since we're talking about inventory. Now, obviously, you're going to have more here probably, right, than some other counties right now, but right now, 0.77. So for every 1,000 residents, there's less than one single family permit being issued. And that's as of June, by the way, of 2025. That's how they do that. The Census Bureau is a year behind, but no surprise. But they're not building it's just not like they were before. Look at this. Look through the 90s and then the aughts. You were building a lot more homes. One point, look at this. In 2005, it was 1.53 homes for every 1,000 residents. Now, 0.77. So the building in Hamilton County shut off. What about multifamily permits? This is not surprising, but in the big counties, in the metro areas of a state, look at this. You're seeing more multifamily being built, a lot more than single family. I think we may be overbuilding multifamily right now in some spots. I think that's nothing new in the US, but even in Ohio. So inventory is not, it's growing, but it's nothing like it was historically for you. However, if I look at days on market, let's look at that. Look at this, 40 days now, 23 days in 2022. So taking a lot longer to sell a house. And look at the pending ratio. It peaked at 1.6 for July, 1.6 in 2020. Sellers in control 100%. Now it's 0.72 and it's going down. So you've got demand not keeping up with that supply. It's not keeping up with supply in Hamilton County overall. Now let me look at that other zip code real quick. See if there's any data in there, 45069. Maybe we can find something to look at. You just didn't have a lot in Sharonville. So impossible to really analyze. Oh, Westchester. Okay. Yeah, we got some here. 89 listings in Westchester. 59 last year. So more inventory. Again, look in 2016, you had 160. That's when prices were probably a lot softer, right? Not going parabolic. In July of 2021, you only had 32 listings. 32, that's it. But now you're triple that, right? Days on market in 45069. 29 days. Last year was 39. Homes selling quicker than last year. But your low was in 2022 at 15 days in Westchester. So buyers had to make a decision the same day, which was miserable, by the way. To show somebody a house and they had to make a decision that day, that sucked. That was not fun. Because nobody should buy a house like that. I mean, nobody. Thank goodness those days are over for the most part. But let's look at that pending ratio because you can see it right there above me at 0.96. I mean, look where it peaked. That's nuts in Westchester. People must have been jumping out of windows to buy homes there. Whatever I got to do. I'll sell my firstborn. I don't care. I just want to buy the home. 3.75 back in 2021. You want to know how much the market has changed? Look at this. That's a great example. So there were nearly 4 buyers for every house listed out there. And now 0.96. So basically 1 buyer for every home out there, pretty much. So still competitive. Sellers probably still are calling the shots overall, but buyers are starting to, tip that scale a little bit. And historically, it looks like in 2016 and 2018, you had about that type of market condition. Same market that we're seeing now. So maybe it's returning to normal from that standpoint. Let's look at home value, $454,000. And that's a growth of 2.6%. So prices haven't come down overall, but they're not growing as much as they were here, where it was 16, 17% year over year. That's insane. And now it's just starting to, float down, I would call it. Not negative yet. But if you keep seeing more inventory and interest rates don't come down, you may see this price actually go negative. But it may take, we may go through all of next year before it happens. Who knows? Who knows? But you just got to have more active listings to see more prices come down. All right. So that was that. Rebecca, hopefully that helped. Thanks for checking in from Facebook. Yeah, man. You have a great afternoon too. Thanks for everything today. Seriously. Means a lot. It really does. Ooh, man. I've been wanting to look at this one for a while. Millersburg and Holmes County. Yeah, let's look at Holmes County. I doubt you have enough in Millersburg, enough data to look at it, to really analyze it. So let me look at Holmes County. Yeah, you only have 43 active listings. We have 26 in Millersburg, but let me look at the county level. You've got 43 active listings. Last year, 32. So inventory is increasing. In fact, you're really back to like that 2016 level. You're really back to that 2016 level. Point is, you do have more homes than you had a few years ago, no doubt. Look at days on market, 50 days. Now, I think a lot of these properties are probably, my guess is they're big land, right? Not so much like a move-in ready small starter home. A lot of it, I assume, are big pieces of property, so they tend to sit longer. Nonetheless, it's 50 days right now. Last year was 56 days. So homes are selling a little faster than last year, but if I go back to 2023, it was 21 days. So they are sitting longer than a few years ago. So that COVID mass hysteria is starting to wear off, thankfully. Look at your pending ratio, though. Look at that pending ratio, 0.58. And look at this. Back in 2022, it was 3.25, similar to Westchester, where it's over 3. That means people were like lining up to buy a house. They're like, what does it take? I got to buy one. That guy's paying $300, I'll pay $310. That guy pays $310, I'll pay $320. No inspection. Appraisal gaps. Anything I have to do, I'll drain my savings, which is a bad idea, by the way. So it's like 3.25. I mean, that was unsustainable. And now it's just a fraction of that. So demand is falling off a cliff. Although people are still buying, I can't say that they're not, but buyers definitely have more control than they've had in a while. I mean, you got to go all the way back in Holmes County. You got to go all the way back to July of 2019. No, July of 2018 to see a pending ratio as bad as this. But look, in 2016, it was 0.14. That's no demand hardly. But it's trending down, that's for sure. Again, it could just be people overprice their homes. Overpricing your home in a normal market and like a typical housing market is like a sure way to be disappointed and be frustrated. It can also be one of the tougher things to do is price your home right. All right, home value. Homes are expensive there in Holmes County. $377,000. I'm guessing they're still going up. They are. Look at this. Still going up 6% more than last year. And people wonder, how is that possible? You just said more, it's more of a buyer's market, or buyers are, getting leverage. Well, just because they have some leverage now doesn't mean that the price that you're paying today isn't higher than it would have been last year. Doesn't mean that. It just means maybe the person is coming down on their price, the seller's coming down on their price more than they normally would have, or you ask for a concession that you get. Remember, this is like a really dirty secret and trick from the MLS and realtors. I'm going to tell you something inside now, that when I'm done selling a house and the seller got paid and all that jazz, and I enter that information into the MLS, it asked me where I closed it out. Did I, what was the price? Well, I enter it. Let's say it's 300 grand. If you asked for, as a buyer, if you asked for 5,000 in closing cost and the seller gave that to you, in reality, the net price is 295. But what do you see from the MLS and what do you see online? 300. So just because it's 6.2% growth on the top line number doesn't mean that there weren't concessions involved. New homes are the worst with that, by the way. I mean, you go look at new home prices and where they closed, they never put in concessions, and they're not counted in the aggregate data, really. That's something that probably should change to be more transparent with people. Anyway, that's some inside info. All right, next. Trying to buy in Kirtland. 44094. Let's look at it. Didn't I just look at this in Willoughby? I thought I just looked at this one. Yeah, in Lake County. I thought we looked at that. Yeah, I think I looked at this one already. If I didn't, let me know, but I thought I did. I went past your request. You're gonna have to drop it in again, man. There's just a ton of them here. It's hard for me to find them. Oh, here you go. Worcester, got it. Orville, 44667. 44667. Only 12 listings, so I'm gonna have to go to a county level for you. 99 active listings in a county. That's in Wayne County, right? Last year in the county, you had 149. You've lost a lot of inventory. Somebody's buying that, or somebody's taking it off the market. Looks like somebody's buying it based on the pending ratio, but let's look more, find out what we see. Days on market, how's that doing? 29 days. Last year was 38 days. So you got fewer homes on the market. You got homes selling quicker than last year. That's the opposite of what a lot of these markets show. Pending ratio, 1.11. Your peak was 1.80. So sellers, even though they don't have as much power as they did back in 2021, they still have power. It's still more of a seller's market where you are overall. Again, depends on the deal, depends on the neighborhood, the zip code. I couldn't look at your zip. It was just not enough activity. But man, it looks like that's a tight market. You know, as a seller, you probably do pretty good. As a buyer, you're still struggling a little bit probably. $270,000 is your typical price for a house in Wayne County. And the home value, look at this, home value up 4%. So price is still going up. What's interesting is if I look at just like the time period from September 2023 all the way through August of 2024. So the end of 2023 through the first half of 2024, prices were going down and going down a lot. Like you had some major home price decline there. Some massive price decline. Yeah, look at this. It went from 283 down to 249. fairly quickly and then back up. And then back up. Let me look at the active listings. Yeah, that is strange because I'm not seeing anything in the active listings that would dictate that. Huh. I don't usually see that up and down with prices. In Ohio, anyway. But it's not an all-time high right now, $271,000. You're really close, though. I mean, you're really, really close. So sellers still look like they're in control there, Jeff. They still do. But not as much as they were a few years ago. Again, this is a compass. It's not definite. So depending on what you have going on in your little subdivision or street, could be different. School district, all that stuff. Let me get this one. North Olmstead, 44070. 44070. Let's look at it. Again, drop your zip code below. I've got time for a few more. And your city and what you're doing. I don't even need your city because that pulls up automatically, but I need your zip code and if you're buying or selling. North Olmstead, 47 active listings, 41 active listings last year. So you've got a little more, a little more inventory, but it's not a ton. Days on market, 37. Last year, 35. Homes sitting a little longer. The low was 21 days in 2023, by the way. Homes moving pretty quick. Now they're starting to creep back up as far as sitting on the market. But if you go back to 2016, I keep going back to this timeline because this is when, we were just coming out of the great financial crisis. You can kind of see the effects of that still when you look at 2016. 56 days, homes just sitting and sitting. But now look at the pending ratio, 1.34. Sellers still calling the shots probably. But it's lower, at least they don't have all the control they had back in 2021 when the pending ratio was 3.15 of all things. I mean, that's like buyers were just going crazy. I'll pay anything, woo. And then again, look in 2016, the pending ratio was 0.43. I mean, compare that to now, right? So back in 2016, you had a lot more homes for sale. Now you have fewer homes for sale than you did in 2016. And demand is nowhere near where it was in 2016 compared to now. So that's why prices were falling during the great financial crisis. And now they're probably still going up for you, I think. Let's find out. $296,000. Wow. Year over year, they are up 4%. Prices haven't come down at all. Higher for longer on prices. Higher for longer. Wow. Look at where they were going in 2021, up nearly 18%. Home prices were growing 18%. Not anymore. But they haven't crashed at all. Sellers look like they're still calling the shots overall. They do. They do. Okay. A few more here. This is a great comment here. Thanks, RW. Yeah, you've been trying to buy in Kent, still a seller's market, old stock and high prices. Welcome to Ohio. Welcome to Ohio. I mean, it's less than, when last time I calculated it, it was less than 1%. Less than 1% of all houses in Ohio were built after 2020. Think about that. They're not replacing the inventory. And you got homes like, I think it's over half the homes were built before 1970 in the state. The 50s, 60s, and 70s is when we built a lot of the stock. And like you're saying, Jeff, or not Jeff, RW, a lot of the homes are really old. And so how does that change? You got to have more permits, right? You got to have more new building. You have to. By the way, people will talk about the silver tsunami. They will say, hey, if you listen to YouTubers and even read some of the stuff on Twitter, you will see that people are like, hey, there's a silver tsunami coming, basically that boomers are aging out, and all that inventory is going to flood the market, crashing home prices. But let me ask you, RW, like the houses that you're seeing, if all of a sudden a bunch of boomers moved on in their life into what stage that is, whatever stage that may be, then what? You're left with a bunch of old homes that need renovated probably. That can be done, but people have to be willing to do it. So is a silver tsunami going to help a lot of people? Depends where you live. And in Ohio, I don't know that it will. Thanks for that comment. You're right. Let's see. 45420 Kiara. Did I say that right? 45420. Let's look at 45420 for Kiara. 45420. Kettering, right? 45420. Yep, Kettering. How many we got there? 39. So that's enough to play with, which is good. Active listings, 39. Last year, 47. You've lost inventory there. Northern Ohio, by the way, seems like it's more of a seller's market, certainly than Central Ohio. Like if you wanted to get the best deal in Ohio, probably like I'm seeing a lot more pressure on sellers in Central Ohio, a lot more than Northern Ohio. And this is a great example. So active listings are falling year over year, which is nuts. I mean, and again, 138 back in 2016. Again and again and again, we look at this. Days on market, 34. Last year, 37. Homes are selling quicker. Homes are selling quicker. And the pending ratio is unreal. Look at that. It was 7 in 2020. That means there were 7 buyers for every listing. That's insanity. And that fell quickly, obviously. But now it's 1.31, which still favors sellers overall. So, what's your home value? 174. Maybe that's why, because the typical home's 174,000. And your year-over-year price, 3.5%. Prices keep going higher for longer. But maybe because your home value is, relatively low compared to most areas of the state is like 250 or something. So maybe that's why you're seeing prices continue to go and be a tight market, because homes are relatively affordable. Look, in July of 2020, your typical house was 107,000. Now 174,000. It's a massive difference. Higher property taxes, higher insurance, higher everything. Thanks for suggesting that one. And thanks for checking in with us. Poverty at 150. Yeah, New York City, you're not probably be homeless at 150 grand in New York City. But I think my point earlier was, and it was something we were just kicking around in the chat, that, there was just a study done, and I don't have it. I think it was by Mike Green. If you look up Mike Green, he does a study about poverty, and it wasn't 150. It was like 143. He's saying that's the new poverty line for a family. That's what he said, and he had an analysis to back it up. I'm not saying that's the truth, but I think everybody would agree that 100 grand ain't going to get you where it used to, obviously, because of inflation, right? Buy rental property. Here we go. Nice. Timothy Jackson. Let's look at a rental. 44708. Where's that? Let's look. 44708. Now, I am going to start adding in some data on multifamily, but I don't have that in here yet. Is it 708? 44708, yeah. I don't have that in here yet. And that's Stark County, right? Shout out Phil Davison. $50 listings right now. Last year, 46. So I don't know what type of investor you are, what you're looking for. Again, you should check out that school community. That one that I put up here a little while ago. This one. Check out School Community if you want to, become a better investor. I don't make any money on it. It's not my community. It's somebody, I know the guy that runs it, this guy right here, Mike Zuber, and he's out of Fresno. He's been on my national channel a few times, but if you're really looking for like the best of the best as far as a community goes, at $20 a month, you could do a lot worse. Like this community has tons of free education. It's not free, $20 a month, but you get a ton of education. But yeah, let's look at your data. So in Canton, you've got 50 listings last year, 46, a little bit more as far as stuff to choose from. These are single family homes though, and condos. That's what this is. It's not multifamily. Days on market, 40 days. Last year, 31. Homes are sitting longer. As an investor, that's not a bad thing to see, because you can definitely maybe take your time a little bit, make multiple offers, right? Come back to the seller later on. Hey, I'm still here. Have you reconsidered yet? Look at the pending ratio. Even though you do have more inventory, sellers still, somewhat in control. It has swung a little towards buyers from your peak in 2021, where it was 2 buyers for every 1 home listed. Now it's at least like a 1-for-1 ratio. Home value, $198,000. Last year, $189,000. So homes are up $10,000 year over year. What's that, 5%? 5.1%, no, 4.5%. So basically 5% growth of home prices. So prices still going up, but that doesn't mean you can't find something that makes sense for you. And doesn't mean you can't find a cash flowing property. You may be able to. Depends on your, what you do and how you do it. All right. Well, good luck though. You're welcome, Nate. I don't have time for I'll probably do 2 more. These pile up. Butler County wannabe flippers running around with inflated HELOC loans. They are running prices up to stupid levels. Well, if they don't buy the home right and they don't run their business right, they won't be flippers very long. This market will spank you big time if you're running your business incorrectly as an investor. I don't care if you're flipping or a buy and hold investor. Like, gone are the days where you can buy a home and throw lipstick on it and make, 6 figures for the most part, right? And honestly, that's a lot of why I'm seeing inventory stack up in central Ohio, particularly inside of Columbus. A lot of investors thought, hey, if I put in granite countertops, I could sell it for 400 grand, when the neighborhood will only support 250. They just didn't know what they were doing. So just give them time. And by the way, these opportunities right here that you're talking about can be the best ones to go after as a primary buyer. If you're looking, even if you're an investor or you want to move into the home yourself, pick off one of these where an investor made a mistake, where they're like, I gotta sell, like I'm ruined. Could be a great opportunity. You may have to do some sweat equity and some work, right? Some repairs and whatnot, but they can be great opportunities. All right. I got a lot here to look at. Buy rental. Thanks for the chart. Mary girl. What's up, Mary? 43331. Let's look at 43331. Lakeview in Logan County. Yeah, we've got a few there on Indian Lake. Huh. That'll be interesting to look at. Let's look at active listings in Indian Lake. 35. Shoot. Last year, 32. Right? So you've got a few more listings. 3. That's it. Not a ton. But you had 11 listings in 2020. But in 2016, what do we have? a lot more inventory. You had 93. That shows you kind of where we came from over the last decade. Lost inventory, a lot of it. I mean, if you look, that's a decline of 62% of inventory gone in a decade. Even though you are making some ground now, it just kind of shows you how far the supply has been destroyed. 66 days on market right now. Last year, 51. Homes are definitely sitting longer on Indian Lake. Definitely sitting longer. It kind of looks like, I mean, this doesn't look at seasonality, obviously, because you're just looking at Julys, right? So all these dots are July, basically. But in July of 2023, it was 85 days on market, excuse me. Homes were really sitting. Now 66 days. So I don't know if that's really abnormal for them, for where you are when you look at this chart. I'm not sure that's really that big of a deal. But let's look at the pending ratio. Yeah, similar to other markets. Look at this jump you had in 2019. It went all the way up to two buyers for every one listing. Now, not even half a buyer for every listing. So the demand has slowed. But traditionally, your demand is pretty, in this range, right? A couple years ago, it was 0.5. In July of 2022, it was 0.22. Go back to 2016, it was 0.06. Nobody buying, no demand. So it's better than it was in 2016, but it's changed from sellers calling the shots to now buyers at least having some type of power. What's up with prices? Let's look at home prices. Home values, $205,000 last year, $199,000. So that's like what, 2.5% approximately? Is that right? 3%? No, 2.5%. Price is still growing, but what do you notice? That growth slowing big time. Thanks for the Indian Lake suggestion. And Nate, you are welcome, sir. Thanks for joining us. Buckeyes are great. 43116 Commercial Point, Northern Pickaway County. Now, Pickaway County is getting that big drone facility, right? $43116. The big drone. Andrel, is that it? Now you only have 22 active listings. Your zip code's strange on the map here. You said, didn't you say Northern Commercial Point? Northern Pickaway County. Okay. So let me zoom out here and just look, kind of get a sense of where I am. Yeah, you're in Commercial Point, Pickaway County. So I'm going to do Pickaway County because you just don't have enough data in your market, in your zip code. Enough, active listings and transactions. 139 active homes for sale in Pickaway County right now. Wow, look at this, folks. We've been looking all day at this 2016 comparison, what it used to look like in the housing market. Most of the time, a lot more inventory. But look at this. In July of 2016, Pickaway County had 153 active listings. Now 139, not that far off. Not that far off at all. And look at this. In July of 2020, there were 41 active listings. So inventory has grown a lot there in Pickaway County. A lot. Days on market. 44 days. Last year, 36 days. And your low was 14 days in 2021. So you're back to normal levels, basically, of homes, how long it takes to sell a property. Put one in contract anyway. That's what the days on market is. But if I look at the pending ratio, who has more power, buyers or sellers? Buyers are definitely gaining leverage. If you go back to 2020, at the height of the frenzy in COVID, it was 1.8 buyers for every listing. Now, 0.72. You've lost. I don't know if this will do it for me. Will it? Yeah. That's down 60%. So the power of the buyer or the seller versus the buyer has swung 60% basically towards the buyer. The days of COVID frenzy are over. They are over in most of the housing markets. Not everywhere, but most of them. Let's look at the prices. How are they doing? $337,000 is your typical home value. Wow. In Pickaway County, Ohio, it's unreal, right? Year over year, that's up 3%. So it doesn't mean that prices are falling yet, negative. It just means that the power is shifting to a buyer, which y'all been waiting long enough if you're buying. It's about time that it swings that way. I am curious about the permits, though, in Pickaway County. Yeah, look at this chart. This, again, we do these exercises, and it educates me all the time. It gives you a perspective, and I hope you're learning something today. Look at the permits per 1,000 people in Pickaway County, 7.59. So that means that they are building, basically, 7.5 homes, new homes, for every 1,000 residents in the county. Compare that to some other areas we looked at today where it was less than one or just one. So Pickaway County has 7 times the rate of new home building that some other counties do. And again, you can look at any county you want in my data. You just go to jasonferrier.com, go to data at the top, and you can look at all this too. Doesn't cost you anything. You don't even have to give me your email address. You just go in and look at it. Look at like the building before the great financial crisis when inventory was skyrocketing, right? Nationwide and in Ohio. And that caused a lot of price decline. Look at this. You're only building 4 homes per 1,000 people. And then the faucet was shut off big time, right? Right after the great financial crisis, builders were like checked out. But all of a sudden, in 2016, 17, 18, and definitely over the last 4 years, you started to build more and more homes. So I would say in your particular county, this is a great example of a county where I think you probably see more inventory and certainly some maybe some price decline in the future if they continue to build. However, if demand keeps up with that supply increase, then prices probably won't come down much, if at all. But it's good, at least they're building. I don't see this in Ohio very often. Cool example. We may save that one for later. That's a great example. Mary, you had said this. I already looked at your zip code, but you said, we're getting ready to move into a new build here in Logan County. Good. Going to sell my old house. In Logan? Excellent. Yeah, hit me up if I can help at all. If I can't, you already have a realtor or you don't need my help, that's fine. But if I can, hit me up on my website at the top, contact, drop your info in, and I'll reach out. Pink hibiscus. Hibiscus are like the most amazing plant. 45420. Because if you live in Ohio, it looks kind of tropical. I'm a big plant person. 45420. Kettering. Didn't we do this one? Thought I did. Pink hibiscus. Did I do this one? I'm going to do the county because I think I did Kettering for some reason. I'm going to look at Montgomery County. 1.2 thousand active listings. Now that's up from 970. So you've gained in a year about 300 listings. Good for you. Look back in 2016, you had 2,500 homes on the market. 2,500. If you had that many homes right now, prices would completely implode. But you don't. So 38 days on market. Last year, 37 days on market, up just slightly. It hasn't changed a ton over the last few years. I mean, in July 2021, it was homes were moving quicker at 22 days. Now 38 days, but it hasn't doubled yet. And then pending ratio 0.78. In 2020, it was 2.11. So that was when people were just going insane for homes, right? They had to buy anything that was out there. And now buyers are gaining more leverage. So you're underneath that 1 and you're under, you're at 0.78. So definitely some buyers have opportunities. Although you still need more inventory. You do. Let's look at prices. $212,000 right now. And that's up 3.7%. Like most of these zip codes are showing us the same thing. The crazy days of COVID price growth is over. And now it's more falling into a typical line of price growth, but it isn't crashing. So the idea that I do get this comment, I'm going to wait for prices to crash. I hope you're not waiting in a market like this. I mean, they could in 10 years, sure. But over the next few years, unless inventory explodes and there's tons of forced selling, there has to be a mechanism for people to be forced to sell. Right now, there isn't. So if jobs became, if we had a huge job loss in the state and in the US, and let's say interest rates went to 10%, and let's say, the stock market crashed as well. If all that was happening and it was really bad, then yeah, you could see people being forced to sell, and eventually prices would then start to come down a lot. But it'd take years for that to happen, probably. Fact is, we could just kind of bump along at 3-4% growth, still very high interest rates comparatively to the last few years. And then, wages eventually maybe keep up, but could just bump along sideways. That's what's happening, Hibiscus. You're welcome, Mary. I appreciate you joining. Okay, it's been 2 hours and 11 minutes. I'm done. I'm wiped. I did a 2-hour live stream yesterday nationally, so I'm hosed. Last piece here for y'all is this. Yeah, if you want this same data that I'm using right now, if you want to look at everything from active inventory to home values to permits, I got pending sales in here. We didn't even go over that, but I got the pending ratio in here we examined today. Days on market. I got price cuts. I got property taxes in here too. How much property taxes have gone up? I have tax delinquency. We didn't touch on that today either, but we will maybe next week. Tax delinquencies, I've got that in there in my data. I've got cancellation rate. I just put the cancellation rate in today. So how many contracts are being canceled, right? So for instance, Delaware, 13% in Delaware County are being canceled. Knox County, 17%. Licking County is 13%. Franklin is 17% of deals are being canceled once they're in contract for whatever reason. So you can come in and look at that. I also have data centers. Look at this. If you hit this button down here, you can load in the data centers and look at where they are. Where are the data centers in Ohio? Today wasn't about data centers or property taxes. It was about the housing market itself. But that's data center. So all this information is available. You could go to a state level. You can go to a metro level, just cities, right? Oh, I got an error, it looks like. NA, that's not good. I'll fix that. And you can go to a zip code level. I mean, like we did, right? I can look at these zip codes and see how they change. So like, where are they building the most homes? Watch this. If I go to a county level and look at where they're building the most homes, the blue, that's where they're building the most homes for 1,000 residents. Red is where they're not building the most homes. Pretty easy. Anyway, this information is available. Go to jasonferrier.com, go to the top, data. It loads this map in. As I improve it, you get all those updates. Take advantage of this. It's here for you to use right now. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't even have to register at all. I'm not asking for your email. If you need help buying, selling a home in Ohio, contact me right here in the contact at the top of my website. Put in your information. I'll reach out to you. We'll set a time. Last piece. I know I got a lot, but last piece for you is I have now market updates. So I'm writing these in-depth, I guess, newsletter type blog things where I go like a layer a layer underneath what we do on these videos. So like this one is actually going out to all my email subscribers. That's going out Monday morning. And it's called, Is It a Good Time to Buy a House in Ohio Right Now? And so I go through how to determine that for yourself, just some more added value. That's all. If you want to subscribe to the newsletter, you come down here to the bottom of my homepage. It's somewhere in here. Maybe it's not. You go into an actual article, I think it's in here. It better be, otherwise I got to add it. Right down here. So the very bottom of the market update page, you can type in your email, subscribe, and you'll be added to the list of folks I send a newsletter to. And that's just a free way to get more knowledge about the Ohio housing market. So anyway, all that stuff's available for you to get the, not the deal of your dreams maybe, but certainly not overpay, hopefully, for a home. And I'm wiped. So look, have a great weekend. Stay dry. Hopefully it doesn't rain. And shout out to the people in Crooksville, Ohio. They've been in southeastern Ohio. I imagine a lot of that's wrecked. I know Zanesville and Roseville and Crooksville, a lot of Muskingum County got hammered with all the rain. In fact, one of my units actually got flooded, one of my rental units, but that happens when you're a landlord. So other people, though, I think, they may have a really, really hard time coming back from what the damage that's been done. And yeah, so keep those folks in your thoughts and have a great weekend. Again, hopefully it doesn't rain a lot. I'm the Housing Nerd, and I am out. OUT out. We'll see y'all. Peace.